It is the night of November 24th, 1971. A commercial Boeing 727 is flying blindly through a massive thunderstorm, 10,000 feet above the unforgiving, freezing wilderness of Washington State. Inside the cockpit, the pilots are flying manually, battling severe turbulence. But the real nightmare isn't the weather outside. It's what is happening in the back of the plane. At the rear of the aircraft, the aft door is wide open. The freezing wind is violently tearing through the cabin. And standing on the edge of the lowered stairs, staring down into the pitch-black abyss, is a man in a sharp business suit. Strapped to his chest are two heavy military-grade parachutes and a briefcase containing $200,000 in stolen ransom money. He takes one final breath, steps off the edge, and vanishes into the roaring darkness. He was never seen or heard from again. He left behind no body, no conclusive evidence, and the greatest aviation mystery in American history. This is the unsolved case of the man known to the world only as D.B. Cooper. To understand how a man could hijack a commercial airliner and simply disappear mid-air, we have to go back to how quietly it all began. Just a few hours earlier, on the afternoon of Thanksgiving Eve, the Portland International Airport was bustling with holiday travelers. Among them was a man carrying a black attaché case. He approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter and calmly purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. He paid the $20 fare entirely in cash. When asked for a name, he gave a simple alias, Dan Cooper. He boarded Flight 305 and made his way to the back of the plane, taking seat 18C. He ordered a bourbon and 7-Up, lit a Raleigh cigarette, and waited. To the crew and the other 36 passengers on board, he looked like any other tired corporate executive heading home for the holidays. Shortly after takeoff, as the plane ascended into the cloudy sky, Cooper handed a small, neatly folded piece of paper to Florence Schaffner, a 23-year-old flight attendant sitting a jump seat away. Thinking it was just another lonely businessman slipping her his phone number, she dropped the note unopened into her purse. But Cooper leaned closer, his voice low and incredibly calm, and whispered, "Miss, you better look at that note." Florence, the flight attendant, finally opened the piece of paper. The message was printed neatly in exact all-capital letters. It read, "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I will use it if necessary. I want you to sit next to me." Terrified, she walked back and sat down next to him. She asked him to prove it. Calmly, Cooper unlatched the black attaché case and opened it just enough for her to see inside. There were 8 red cylinders, thick wire coated in red insulation, and a large cylindrical battery. The threat was real. He closed the case and dictated his demands. $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, 2 primary, 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane upon landing. If his demands weren't met, he would blow Flight 305 out of the sky. Florence walked to the cockpit and handed the demands to the pilot, William Scott. Scott immediately contacted Seattle Air Traffic Control, who alerted the FBI and the airline president. They agreed to fully cooperate. The plan was set. Gather the money, get the parachutes, and most importantly, keep the passengers completely unaware. To buy the FBI time to scramble the massive amount of cash, the pilots announced to the cabin that a minor mechanical issue would delay their landing. For the next 2 agonizing hours, the plane circled endlessly in the dark skies above Puget Sound. The passengers chatted, read magazines, and drank, totally oblivious that they were sitting on a flying bomb. But the most chilling detail of those 2 hours was Cooper himself. He wasn't sweating. He wasn't shaking. He simply drank his bourbon, put on a pair of dark sunglasses, and even offered to pay for the flight crew's meals once they landed. He wasn't acting like a desperate criminal. He was a ghost with ice in his veins. At 5:39 p.m., Flight 305 finally touched down in Seattle. Waiting on the tarmac was a fuel truck and an FBI agent carrying a heavy canvas bag. Inside were exactly 10,000 $20 bills, weighing 21 pounds, and 4 civilian parachutes. True to his word, once the cash and parachutes were brought on board, Cooper allowed all 36 passengers and 2 of the flight attendants to disembark. The passengers walked off the plane into the cold night, still having absolutely no idea they had just been part of a hijacking. But Cooper kept the pilots and 1 flight attendant as hostages. With the plane refueled, Cooper gave the pilots his final, highly specific instructions. Their destination, Mexico City. But it was how he wanted to get there that baffled the crew. He wasn't making random demands. He was reciting a technical manual. He ordered them to fly below 10,000 feet, meaning the cabin could not be pressurized. He demanded the landing gear remain down, the wing flaps lowered to 15 degrees, and the speed strictly held at a sluggish 170 knots. He knew the exact aerodynamic limits of the Boeing 727. At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off once again, heading straight into the freezing rain and absolute darkness of the Pacific Northwest. Inside the unpressurized, freezing cabin, Cooper was now completely alone in the passenger area. He told the last flight attendant to go to the cockpit, shut the door, and not come out. Left alone in the dark, Cooper began his preparations. He tied the heavy canvas bag of money tightly around his waist and strapped 2 of the parachutes to his chest and back. He then walked slowly toward the rear of the plane, ready to do the impossible. At 8:12 p.m. inside the stressful 1970s cockpit, pilot William Scott feels a sudden and violent shift in air pressure. A red warning light flashes on the instrument panel. The aft cabin staircase has been lowered. He tries to contact the cabin, but the intercom is dead. In the rear of the unpressurized passenger cabin, the famous aft stairs are extended wide open to the roaring 200-mile-per-hour freezing wind. The dark silhouette of D.B. Cooper takes a final look back at the empty, dark plane. With the money strapped tight, he launches himself off the steps and vanishes into the terrifying, pitch-black thunderstorm over the mountainous, forested terrain below. The following day, the largest manhunt in U.S. history began. Hundreds of FBI agents, soldiers, and volunteers combed the dense, freezing wilderness of Washington state. They searched mountains, rivers, and forests. They were looking for a body, a parachute, or a briefcase. They expected to find a dead man. They found absolutely nothing. D.B. Cooper had simply erased himself from existence. The case went ice cold for 9 long years, until 1980. An 8-year-old boy digging a fire pit on the banks of the Columbia River uncovers 3 bundles of rotting $20 bills buried in the sand. The FBI confirmed the serial numbers matched the ransom money. It was $5,800 of Cooper's cash. This rotting money is the only physical evidence ever discovered from the skyjacking. But how did it get there? Was Cooper buried alive nearby? Or did he manage to survive, leaving the money as a taunting clue? The discovery of the rotting money fueled decades of debates. The FBI officially argued that no experienced parachutist would ever attempt that jump. He was wearing a business suit. It was 200 miles per hour freezing wind, heavy rain, and pitch black over a mountainous forest. They concluded he died mid-air from the extreme cold, or was buried alive when he landed. But if he died, why were his remains never found in an area that was combed by hundreds of people? And there are deeper paradoxes. He was incredibly calm. He knew specific airplane instructions. He even paid his drink tab. He wasn't acting like a doomed man. In 2016, the FBI made a historic announcement. They were officially suspending the D.B. Cooper investigation. After 45 years and thousands of suspects, the trail was gone. It became the only unsolved skyjacking in history. We are left with only questions. Was D.B. Cooper a ghost who was never truly there? Or was he a brilliant master criminal who designed the perfect heist and then simply erased his old life? The man who bought the bourbon and ordered the parachutes never stepped foot in seat 18C ever again. What do you think happened to D.B. Cooper? Is he living a quiet life with the stolen money? Or is he a skeleton in the vast wilderness? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, hit that subscribe button for more dark mysteries. Until next time, keep your eyes open.